Hello, and welcome to another Leadership Nugget. This one's a little different than what we've been doing. It's a little longer. I hope you'll bear with me. But going back to what I talked about in the Golden Circle and how we need to speak to the limbic brain and tell stories, this is a story. I'm breaking a lot of the rules of presentation because there are going to be lots of words on these slides and not too many pictures. But again, try to bear with me. I think this is a great message. Many years ago, I was representing the organization at an offshore captive conference and was fortunate enough to hear Ken Schmidt, the legendary director of communications for Harley Davidson, give a keynote address. I was so impressed. I was just writing notes furiously. I believe I have captured the essence of what he said, and let's see what that is. So Harley was failing. They had pretty much run out of their investment capital. Their new bike that was coming to market didn't sell the way they hoped it would. They were actually so short they needed to take out a very high interest loan just to make payroll. It was not working, and part of the reason their strategy was not working is their bikes were 2 or 3 times more expensive than a motorcycle you could buy that was a knockoff that actually performed pretty well. They weren't going to be successful with that strategy, so they needed to make a change. So in the world of demand creation, the most important person is me, and that's the generic me. Pay attention to me, talk to me, make me feel special. And we live in a world where so many of us are just like invisible in this mass of people, especially in a marketplace like Harley Davidson. So Ken brought them a strategy which was radically different. They were going to take their motorcycles out and try to sell them one at a time. It worked a little bit, but what worked most was what they learned from that and what ultimately made them so successful. Here's how it worked. So they loaded up motorcycles in semi-tractor trailers and they took them all over the country. They went to like burned out Kmart's with big, empty parking lots, and they set up a little motorcycle course and they let anybody basically come and ride their motorcycles. You didn't even have to have a motorcycle license. There were no salesmen, just engineers who got feedback from people. What'd you like? What didn't you like? What would you change? They copied that feedback onto note cards and they collected that from all over the country. Most importantly, they collected the feedback specifically from individuals. So if those people later, and by the way, they followed up and followed up and followed up. Thank you so much for your feedback. We're considering it, we're working on it, we're implementing it, whatever the situation was. Key was if any of those people ever came into a showroom to look at a motorcycle, they got their name, and if it triggered that was someone who had participated in the study, that it created this big hoopla. People came out of the back, out of the shop and said, wow, it's you, thank you so much. And we were told if you ever came in here looking at a motorcycle, we needed to give you a discount, and if you bought the one that had the system that you had suggested, we should give that to you for free. So which of these motorcycles would you like to ride? So one of the things they learned was there's no value in subtlety. They had to tell people they appreciated them. They had to follow up with them. They had to find a way, if they ever had future contact, to make them feel special. In other words, catch these individuals and lift them up out of that sea of people that they seem to be somewhat invisible in, and make them feel special, even if it's just for a moment. And so if we can do that in the healthcare industry, even just for a moment, and it can be anybody, if we can lift people up out of that mass of confusion and uncertainty and make a connection with them and make them feel special, that can make a huge difference. And if we do it and do it and do it, it'll get ingrained into the culture of our organization, and we can be much more successful. So you see, we are driven by our hearts, not our heads. in many cases. If you look at the words that Harley used, passion, freedom, individuality, when they were reaching out to people and selling their culture as opposed to their motorcycle, that is so much like the golden circle where we talked about to speak to the limbic brain and where decisions are made. Tell stories and talk in terms of dreams and opportunities and possibilities. Our culture dictates how the market sees us, and we can't just say we like what we're doing. We have to like what we're doing. We have to be energized about our company and our work, and we have to lift. We have to talk to the most important person, me, and we have to lift people up. So they need to know that we truly care. And that's how Harley turned a failed sales strategy into a very successful organization where the most requested tattoo in the whole world is their logo. Many years ago, I contracted with the Rosen School of Hospitality at UCF to conduct a study, and actually we wrote an article on the hospitality and healthcare. I asked them to help me figure out what was the one thing that we could reach out and touch that would make the most difference in whether or not our patients and their families would recommend us. And it was not any of the stuff we thought. It wasn't the quality of the food, the noise at night, whether or not the nurses or doctors took time with them. It was, very simply, did any one person on our staff, and it could have been anybody, engineering, housekeeping, did any one person on our staff make a personal connection with that patient or their family? We could get 8s and 9s throughout the survey and still end up with a 10 overall if that happened. So of course I said, well, what do I do to make that happen? And the answer was as simple as it could have possibly been. The answer is, if you want people to make personal contacts with your clients, with your patients, with their families, those people have to feel good about themselves when they come to work and again when they go home from work. That was what it was. And if we can make that happen, that's going to be the secret sauce. I believe in my heart that that is the truest essence of leadership. As always, thanks for watching. So if you like these and you want some more, you can always find them at the School of Global Health Management and Informatics here at UCF. And best of luck to you as you pursue your career goals and try to figure out how to make the people on your team feel good about themselves. Go Knights.